Hey, this is Douglas Bell, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Ringing the Bell, where we're talking to artists at the intersection of art, social justice, and the human spirit. Today, I have someone again who just blew me away. I am so thankful that she's here today. I don't know how we got her, but we did. She is a painter. She is a teacher and educator. She is also a meditation guide and teacher, and she's also a mentor to other artists. So she's busy. I want to welcome to another episode of Ringing the Bell, Drea the Artist.
Hello, hello.
Hey, young lady.
Thank you for having me. That was great.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah, that was
okay
cool.
then. All righty. How you doing?
I'm good, living life.
Okay.
Going through the motions.
Okay.
Doing my thing.
Well, it's Saturday morning. How is Saturday morning going all right?
Oh yeah, busy.
Busy,
Already
okay.
activated.
Now, school has started for the kids.
Yes. We started about a week ago.
Okay.
So I'm already
And
that.
And we getting off to a good start?
Oh yeah, this is gonna be a great year.
Okay.
Good. It's easy, smooth.
Okay. And how
not
many
stressful.
and how many kids do you have in your room?
Well, each class I have about 36.
Oh, that's
Overall, I have about 240 kids. High schools. So
So
they're
you're in high.
kids, they're
Okay, so
teenagers.
so they're teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't know why I thought these were the small ones.
No, I can't do the small ones. They need too much energy and attention.
Okay, yeah.
The big kids, I tell them what to do, then they go mind their business.
Okay.
So that works for me.
Okay.
Sure.
So okay. With that being said, so you are an art teacher.
Yes.
You are an art teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the connection to the art.
Yes.
So now, growing up, were you an artist?
For as long as I can remember, I've been an artist.
Okay.
Even my little kindergarten alphabet book, I remember thinking that my snail was the best ever. So honestly, I don't remember a point in my life where I did not see myself as an artist.
Okay, so you always knew you were going to be an artist.
Oh yeah.
So now, and you are art trained.
Yes.
And where'd you get your training at?
So I did not go to college for art.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I took art class every year of school.
Okay.
My mom had me in lessons at Hobby Lobby.
Okay.
When I was younger. When I was in high school, I was in AP art for all 4 years, and so that's basically like GT art, if you want to say that.
Okay.
Where you can get college credit and things like that. But
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. But going to college, everybody says you can't make money off of art. So
Okay.
I ended up going to school for construction management.
Really?
Yeah, my skill level now is pretty much, now I don't want to say the same as when I was in high school, but I got most of my training in the K through 12 space.
Okay. So you are a very left-right brain person, the fact that you got a construction management degree.
Yeah.
So now a construction manager, so that means you've learning scheduling and estimating of construction projects.
Mm-hmm. Blueprints.
As blueprints and these types. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, a lot of people that I've worked with, I'm not the artist that's scared to look at my money, that's always late. Like I am very,
Right.
I have the structure to go with it.
Okay.
So I have that balance going on for sure.
Okay. So now, how does meditation make its way into all of this?
I was on a construction internship, and that's actually where my journey with the construction management ended,
That did it for you?
Yeah, because I was getting straight A's. The school part of it was great. I was in organizations, but then I went on that internship, and that's how I realized I'm an artist. I'm not meant to be sitting in this, office, or I was on the job site.
Right.
And so, not to go too deep, too early, but that whole experience was the beginning of my spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I started, engaging in things like meditation and just my spiritual path. And that's where things kind of changed for me.
So I want to go back to this. So how did it feel being on a construction site?
Well, I was the only woman there.
Correct.
1 out of 2 Black people there.
Correct.
I was 19 years old.
Correct.
Making the most money I had ever made at that time.
Okay.
But it was very depressing because now one thing, I still have a passion for residential construction, but I was working on UT's campus.
Okay.
So it was more commercial. They also didn't give me much to do. You know, so I think if I actually had a role and I felt like I was useful, it could have
Okay.
been different.
Okay.
But that's where I faced, you know, the realization, like, I don't care how much money I'm making, I will never sell my soul for money. Because, of course, on the outside, I'm on this, you know, summer internship as a sophomore. I was supposed to have a year-long internship after that. So I'm literally going ahead of the curve, just, you know, being an overachiever.
Right.
So on the outside, everybody's like, oh, this is it. Like, you know, I got it going on. And I'm just like, this is not it. You know, like
Okay.
crying myself to sleep. Like,
Right.
It wasn't, you know, you come into work tired every day, not really talking to people. You know, one of the things that really strikes me, you know, the statement that the 5 people that you're around the most is who, it was a big reflection of you.
Okay.
And it was like, I don't want to be like these 5 people. I just didn't, you know, so it was
Right.
draining, it was misaligned,
Okay.
it was all of the things you could imagine
Okay.
with unhappiness.
So from there, then, that kind of spurred your meditation practice.
Yeah.
Because you needed to find a way to kind of get through this.
Yep, and it I won't say that it outright started as a meditation practice, but I feel like meditation is a result of starting to find yourself, you know. And so from the research that I was doing and just the reading that I was doing, meditation was like a natural, you know, stop along that path.
Correct.
And I'm already a person that loves silence, you know, so it wasn't a new thing for me, but it was more intentional when I call it meditation.
So what is it that speaks to you about silence?
The space and clarity to listen to my own thoughts, to listen to my spirit. And for me, you know, I feel like there are different types of meditation. People will define it differently.
Right.
But for me, there are 2 purposes for meditation. One is to become aware and one is to direct, you know? So it's like the space to become aware of what's happening inside of me, but also the space to commune with myself, to direct my energy. Right. And I could be meditating while I'm at work, looking at these kids. I could be meditating while I'm at the grocery store. I feel like anytime that you are intentionally tuned in.
Present.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think I answered your question.
Yes, you did. So how does the meditation, you know, before we go there, can I see, when I first met you at the Montrose Center at the Truth Project, a Vibe event, and your artwork, it was very inspiring. The symbolism, can I see, do you have some of your artwork? I would like you to take me through this, because then what I'd like to do is talk about how meditation, how it all comes together. But you had very strong symbolism in your artwork, and that really caught my attention.
Yeah. So I brought 2 pieces, but I'll start with this one.
Okay.
So this is actually a self-portrait I did of myself, and the real size of this is 3 feet by 4 feet, so it's pretty huge.
So this is okay. This is big. Okay.
Yeah. And so my personal symbols in life are the sun, the eye, and then nature, right? Okay. And so kind of up until now, for the piece I'm working on, a lot of my pieces are just a combination of my symbols. And so here, this right here where I have the 3rd eye, this is actually what the inside of an eye looks like. So I looked in a biology book, and of course I changed the colors around. Everything that I do is about balance. And so all of this orange and red is being balanced by this warm over here. All of these white lines are being balanced by this one line here. All of these leaves are balanced by this.
So now the, gosh, Lee, I've got, my mind just racing, because there's a whole conversation on balance.
Yeah.
There is, it's just a whole, but the lines, what do the lines represent?
And so the lines I have in all of my work, and they represent our blood vessels, the same pattern that's in branches, lightning, streams. To me, it's like the pattern of life, you know, that's in all living things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are those branchings out from your mind in a lot of ways? That's how, could it be seen that way?
It could definitely be seen, like, it could be seen as, I think the most direct thing is, I mean, that's my light radiating, you know, and so these, you know, branches or these lines are coming out from the sun. They're coming out from, in all of my paintings where I have circles, and like they represent the sun, you know? So even this eye represents the sun. And so they're more like sun rays, you know, and a lot of times that I use them. Sometimes it could just be, again, that pattern. And it's just like the natural kind of last touch that I put on my paintings to kind of tie everything together.
So, how are you feeling? What are you thinking in that? How are you feeling in that painting?
So the original idea for this painting was to basically, if I were laying in water and my face was sticking out.
Correct.
And so that's why.
Oh, that's why the blue is back there. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I didn't want to draw my hair, so I don't have any hair here. But this is, I want to look at it, to communicate to myself. This is more a sense of like, I'm here.
Okay.
It's simple. It's a very peaceful, balance. It's not a strong, like, look at me, I'm present, but it's just like, you can see in my expression the power that's behind me. Yeah.
So why the leaves?
So as I said, nature is a part of my symbol, and why that is because I love nature.
Correct.
And so I'm the person that will go camping by myself. I go hiking. Like, I'm really in love with the outdoors because of how regenerative, how healing, and silence in nature is not silence at all. You actually tune into the birds, you tune into the wind, you tune in. And so I'd be safe to say that I have nature in all of my paintings, except for maybe one that I'm thinking about right now. But nature, it has to.
See, and I want to get to that too, because most black folks, we're not trying to. And so, but we're gonna come back to that. We're gonna come back to that one too.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
I want to stay here because I am a nature person too. But that is not our. That's not innate in us just to simply just be walking out in nature. And I do think we are missing something as black folks.
Yeah.
But I also understand too our apprehension about walking out in nature. There's something not very safe about it for us.
Yeah.
So how does the meditation inspire the artwork? Is there a connection?
And so I take the pause just because there's inherently a connection, but it's also more like meditation, I feel like, is a natural just rhythm in my life.
Okay.
So like I don't set time aside to meditate, but like throughout the entire day, I am consciously in my body, in my mind, in my spirit.
Trying to be present.
Yeah. And so when it comes to my art, if I don't know what to do, I'm not about to do anything. I'm not about to sit here and try to force and figure out what to put somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, so I let it sit, and I'll spend time just looking at it sometime. But I feel like in that meditative space is where I receive the next flash to do something,
Okay.
And so it's the stillness it's that balance of activation and stillness, like
Yes, it is.
when I know what to do, I'm in it, I'm working for hours on end. When it's time to sit down and wait for the next flash to be received, for the inspiration to come, I'll go on about my life, but it might be when I'm sitting outside on my hammock, just chilling, that I'll be like, oh, this is it,
Okay.
And so, like I said, it's not always like an isolated event, but just in the like natural thread of how I live, like it just flows with that.
So it sounds like you, at this point in your life, you have found a way to really work with the flow of your life. A lot of times we're bumping up against life, and we're kind of maybe even working against it sometimes. But
Yeah.
it seems like, in a lot of ways, you found ways to kind of ride with where it takes you.
I would definitely say that my life is chaotic.
Okay.
But not in a chaotic where it's like, oh, I'm chaotic. But, and this might be going off topic, but it's to go, to give you a visual. I always see what I'm talking about. And so if you could imagine, I have two visuals. One is like a sun, right, in the middle, but just like those lines, it's connected to so many things on the outside. But in the center, it's still, right? Or another thing I like to imagine is in an ocean, and the water's doing this, but I am a solid ball moving in it. And so it's like I don't resist the chaotic nature of life, but I find myself you know, when I have so many things to do or so many things I'm working on, I don't try to bunker down and focus in that one space. I jump and I do, you know, where that flow is.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think, you know, other people in my shoes, of course, wouldn't be able to do it, as I wouldn't be able to live in your shoes, you know.
Right.
But I find comfort in the flow of balance, you know, of chaos and stillness. I'm not somebody that's going to work through being tired. If I'm tired, I'm going to go to sleep.
Okay.
You know, like
That's okay.
so.
Okay.
As active as I am, I believe in rest.
Yes.
You know, and so that allows me to be as chaotic as I am.
And to have the strength for handling what comes, because you're rested.
Yeah. And I know chaotic is a big word. You know,
Well, it can be.
And it can bring certain images of chaos.
But it doesn't have to be a negative.
It's organized chaos.
Okay.
You know, it's definitely organized.
So let's go back to nature. Nature, how did you become aware of the power of nature? Yes. How did you become aware of the power of nature?
So in college, I remember there was a park up the street from my apartment that I would just go walk. And as an artist, you see details, you know, so when I see a tree, I don't just see a tree. I see all the different shades in the leaves. I see the random branches that aren't attached to anything, that's just going through. And so I'm a very analytical, you know, visually, especially with the type of work that I do. Like my eye is trained to see the smallest things, you know? And so I feel like that's where it started, looking at the bark on the trees and everything. But just how you feel when you walk away from nature. You know, like there's an expansiveness about you. And so one of the things that I do as a meditation guide, I do nature trips where I take people on meditative walks. We do art, we meditate, we do a lot of different things.
I saw that.
Yeah, and one of the big things about that is, like you said, for Black people, being outdoors ain't a Black people thing, you know?
Right.
And so a lot of people will have their first kind of nature experience on my trips. And I remember I took one of my friends camping, and there was an older Caucasian lady, you know, camping, and she offered to give us her wood and everything. But she told us, she said, I'm so happy to see your color. I'm so happy to see colors out here. This is your forest. I didn't take offense because you knew that she was sweet, you know, she was just from a different time.
Right.
But in her statement where she said, you know, this is your forest, when you go back, and something that you said earlier, just about us not feeling safe, you know? But when you think back to our ancestors, we are from the land. You know, we are deeply, even in our apprehension about being in nature, we are still deeply connected to this earth, you know? And so I've had so many healing experiences in nature by being by myself, walking in silence, you know, being able to walk in, being one person, coming out, being a totally different, you know? And so I love to give that experience to other people because I don't have to do the work. Nature does it, you know?
Okay.
Nature is the experience.
I am so impressed that you have awareness of this at such a young age.
Yeah.
For my own personal self, I went on my first yoga retreat maybe about 20 years ago, and it was in New Mexico, and I was in the what do you call it? Not the forest, but you know, they have reserve land. I don't know what you call it, but and to your point, it was a week of noble silence, no talking, in nature. And I will have to say where I became really stressed is there actually was a wildfire.
Wow.
And we were in the mountains, and you could see that fire coming up. And so, you know, on your meditation, on these retreats, if you ring the bell, that's your opportunity to talk, but you can't talk until you ring that bell.
Wow.
So I saw this smoke coming up, and I just started ringing this bell, and they were like, everybody was fine. I was the only Black person there, but you know, we just have our reactions to things. So I'm like, what is that? You know, and I'm like, it's a fire. I was like, what is and we're not leaving? Like, we're fine. Yeah. So you are right in the sense that I went on that week's retreat of observing noble silence that entire time, and I did come back a totally different person. I think for you to recognize the power of nature is really why I was so drawn to you when we first started talking. So how are people finding out about your retreats? Where I mean, how does someone find you?
Yep. So on my Instagram, Drea_the Artist, I post everything I have. So the trips are called Nature Vibes.
Okay.
So there's a separate Instagram for that as well. But I think a lot of, even with my art shows, a lot of stuff is word of mouth.
Okay.
And so I'll have people come that I've never seen before, but they heard about it by somebody else.
Okay.
And so this was the first year where I actually created a schedule of events, because normally, as we were talking off camera, I do everything myself. Normally I would do it kind of whenever I feel like it. But this year I actually have our first camping trip. And just kind of a context, we go to different state parks that are about an hour and a half within like Houston's area.
Right.
So that is accessible. But yeah, I post everything on Instagram. Of course, as time develops, I hope to have like a bigger outreach and be able to have ambassadors and all of that type of stuff.
So now how long are your retreats?
So I do day trips.
Okay, so these are days. So,
yeah.
Well, you had the camping, so you all were spending the night and everything.
I'm having, okay. So upcoming is the first, Nature Vibes camping trip, but I've taken friends camping.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So I've taken people camping that haven't been before, but those I normally just go for 2 nights. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But right now I do day trips, and so it's a 5-hour trip, and I feel like with it being 5 hours versus, a long week, it's very accessible for people that aren't comfortable with, nature in that scale. And so it's like they can get their feet wet to be like, this is what it is, so that then when I say, I'm having a camping trip for a week too, they're like, I know, and I'm very big on letting people know, this is not a glamping experience, this ain't nothing fancy, because we're in nature, ain't no refrigerators out here, bring your sack lunch, like we're going on a field trip, I think with a lot that I do, it also is tied into your inner child, and so I create a very vulnerable space where we might not know each other, you might not know the person next to you, but you feel safe. Safe is a big word. You feel safe to dive into topics that you wouldn't even dive into with the people that you live with.
Correct.
But yeah, to go back to your answer or your question, their day trips are 5 hours, and then the camping trip will be 3 days.
Okay. Okay. I also read, which I thought was very impressive, that you are mentors to other artists. So you've got a collective of artists that you are working with?
So I actually participated. It was a summer studios program through Project Row Houses, which is a big artistic, center in Third Ward. And they hosted a program that's 6 weeks long with college students. And so different undergrads from, U of H, PV, just kind of in the area. They were tasked to create their own exhibit in the houses. And so there were 14 artists, 7 of them were visual artists, and then the other 7 were performing artists. I was the mentor for the visual artist. Yep, and so in that role, I basically assisted them with coming up with their ideas, fleshing it out, giving them confidence that they could do it, different things like that. But I'm 28, and so, but of course, being 28, I still feel 22, 23 sometimes. And so, my first kind of level up was teaching high school. It was like, y'all are the same age as my little brothers and sisters, but I'm your teacher, And so to be tasked with leading college students, where it's like, I don't think I felt the imposter syndrome as much as realizing that, hey, I'm really basically, what's the word? My potential. And the impact that I like to have, I'm really stepping into those spaces where I can really help people,
You're supposed to be here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You see it now, you feel it.
Yeah, I've been in leadership positions for a long time. So growing up, I was in the drill team at my church, which was like military style, and I was in that from 4th grade till I graduated. But I was an officer as a teenager, as a middle schooler. I was leading, teaching routines. And so I've always known just the capacity that I have to lead and to inspire. And so that's why even when you ask me, like, when did art come into play? Like, I've always been who you're looking at.
Okay.
You know? But to catch up with the realization that, hey, I'm 28 now, you know, like, and so it's like this version of Drea is starting to like really understand what's happening.
Right.
You know, like it's all the same stuff that I've been doing is happening, but it's on a new level.
Okay.
So it feels really interesting.
Okay, it feels really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you think is next? Well, if you could, you know, one of my mentors, especially when I started graduate school, in the application process, one of the questions that she asked me was, what do you think life will look like 20 years from now? And then work your way back. And that was basically, in a lot of ways, my answer to the application process.
Yeah.
So, yeah, where is this going? What does life look like 10 years from now?
Okay. And so I'm gonna actually take the number away from it.
Okay,
right?
I can live with that.
Yeah, because I think when I was in college, I stopped kind of setting like the 5-year, 10-year goals.
Okay.
Because adulthood teaches you that, you know, life is not linear, things happen and you can't control it. But just like that painting that I showed you, vision. My vision, I've always been stuck to. And so my ultimate goal is to be like a coach. And so, yes, I've done art all my life. I will always do it. But my real passion is connecting with people's hearts, you know, helping them to see themselves. And so I want to have my own retreat center, but it's not just for retreats. It's also going to be my art gallery, you know, host different shows, exhibits, things like that. And so I always say, like, what I'm doing in the future is what I'm doing now, just on a bigger scale, you know? So to really be able to take people, you know, out the country on nature trips, not just driving up the street.
Right.
Having my own van where we could take a road trip. You know? So same thing I'm doing now, doing my art on another level, expanding. Will I be in a gallery? Who knows? We'll find out.
Right.
But I'll be doing the same thing I'm doing now because, again, I'm super grateful, and I think I take for granted that knowing who you are forever, you know, or for a long period of time and not still searching for something is not the normal, you know, like to be set on what I am, what I do, to always have had that vision, I know is very unique. But the vision, I've actually went through a stage where I was like, okay, I've been doing art for a long time. Like, is there something else I'm supposed to be doing? Like, what if I'm supposed to be doing something else and I'm stuck on this thing?
Right.
But of course, nah, I got wrapped right back around to where I was.
Well, but see, I think it's great that you asked the question.
Yeah.
I think some days to ask that question in a peaceful moment is much different than asking that question in the midst of chaos.
Yeah.
And not organized chaos, but
Actual chaos.
like actual chaos, like at a bad time.
Yeah.
You may get two different answers depending upon the environment in which that question was asked.
Yeah.
So now you brought a second piece with you.
I did.
You know, when we first met, you know, I commented on your ability to really highlight the beauty and brilliance of Black women in your art. And I'm glad you brought a piece of, because I really would like to speak to you. I really like to hear more from you about what you're thinking regarding your artwork on, because you could be painting anything, but yet this is what you decided to paint. So I wanted to talk about that.
So this is my most recently completed painting. You know, I have one I'm working on, but this is the last one that I've completed.
Now, is that also too a larger?
Same size as that other one, so 36 by 48.
Okay.
So big.
Right.
And for people watching, I use a mix of acrylic and paper collage. Okay. And so a lot of this painting here has, you know, little pieces of paper in it. And so this one specifically came from a very integral, you know, time in my life. Actually, year anniversary came up yesterday. I basically connected with a traditional Aztec dance group. And I was, you know, invited to just come to a day where they danced all day, and I watched, and I was like, you know, I would love to be a part of, like, have this level of culture, you know, because I don't have that, you know, within my family. I don't know where to trace my roots and have those traditions that we actively participate in. But it was like, okay, you know, I'm Black. I don't want to culturally appropriate nothing.
Right.
So it would be nice, you know. And I ended up buying earrings from the lady that's on the center of this painting. And somebody that she was with invited me to their dance practice.
Okay.
So that felt very organic to me. You know, it was like, I didn't go searching out for this,
Right.
but the energy allowed me and brought me, you know, to a very sacred space. Because their practice ain't just practice, like it's a ceremony, you know?
Right.
And so long story short, I actually got initiated into their family.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
so this painting is called Intercommunal Strength, but the premise of all of it was Black and brown people, we might have different languages, we might be from different places, but we are connected to the earth. You know, we all express ourselves in bold colors, loud sounds, the drum. You know, it's a common thing. And so although, and you know, this on off the record, because this is not a definitive statement, but I definitely feel like, I mean, we all have a lot of stuff in our blood. And so just the depths to which I was influenced, you know, into this space, I'm like, something ancestral is happening here. You know, for me to not have to search and find anything, and this is where I am, it was very powerful. And so
I noticed the balance.
yeah, so
Okay,
on the top, you see the bright colors. We have the mountain for strength. But then down here, this was representing the dream state, the subconscious area, subconscious realm, all of that. And so I actually drew this and painted it upside down. Like I didn't flip this over.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
Okay.
if you
Yeah.
actually
Okay.
look at our heads, we actually look very deformed when you look at it that way. Because I actually let myself free flow down there.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Until I didn't pick up on the mirror image
Yeah.
of the picture that you see.
Yeah. So up here, you know, I did my very technical, making sure that it was spot on. But then down here, I let myself just paint, you know, and that's not something that I normally do with people. Like I'm a very technical artist. And so there's a lot of balance, you know, and one big thing about my art, other than the piece that I'm working on now, I don't normally start off with some deep meaning, you know.
Okay.
I normally just get a structure, you know, I might know what color I want something to be, but then the painting becomes what it becomes, and after the fact, I can look at it and take a lot of meaning out of it.
Okay.
And so I think with this one, this picture was my first, I went to a powwow in San
did you
Marcos.
really?
Yeah. So we took a picture at the powwow, and I knew I wanted to use that for a painting, you know.
So what was that? And okay, you finished.
I'm going on.
Right. You okay? Because I got questions on that. But yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, no, I could go into the powwow. It was more of a Native American powwow, and so we were the only, or a few Aztec dancers came from like Texas, from different areas.
Okay.
And that was even an experience, being one of. So Destiny, she was there. I think we were the only Black people there, you know, so that's a whole experience.
Right.
And I was very cautious in my energy of just like, I'm coming from the angle of they looking at me like, who is this? You know, like,
Right.
why is she here? But they were actually very welcoming, you know, they were happy to see us there and, you know, seeing their culture bleeding into others. So yeah, this is, there's a lot of spiritual things
Connections
happening
there, yeah.
in here.
So now that I'm seeing that, yes, you do have here, but then you have here. Was that because you wanted balance, or is there a larger message that you are saying that like you said, there's a more dream state to us, to a more unconscious side to ourselves? Is that
Yeah.
what you're?
So it's almost like balance is the message, because that
Okay.
falls within balance, right? You have the conscious state, you have the brightness, you have what everybody sees, but then beneath that, there's a whole world, you know? And when I was doing this, yeah, it's just the three of us, but there's a lot of ancestral, you know, energy packed in the below the surface.
Correct.
And so me showing those different halves are balance itself, you know?
Correct.
And so I think, and this is going off of this, but, you know, given context, God is balance, you know? And so we don't have to go, you know, too deep into that, but I don't see, you know, God as just the positive, you know? And I mean, that word means different things, but, if you really say that nothing can exist without God, that means nothing. You know, if it's the Alpha and the Omega, it's the Alpha and the Omega. And so both halves create that whole.
Right.
You know?
Well, God is both light and dark.
Yeah.
Yes, that is true.
And so that balance, you know, and so my life, my art, it's all kind of referencing balance. You know, it's not just a one level concept. It's in every aspect of life.
Yes, it is.
Balance is present. You can be out of balance, you know.
Yes, you can.
But that topic, you know, I feel like you can dive into it. Even my use of paper collage versus paint. You know, I have structure with the paper and then the flow with the paint. It's all, so the process itself is balanced.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I feel like it's weaved in a lot of different ways.
So on the subject of balance too, I know for myself a lot of times that is what meditation has offered me. Mm-hmm. It's offered me the opportunity to know when I've gotten out of balance. Mm. Because to your point, meditation reveals or helps you sit with yourself in such a way that you then realize something is out of balance. But without sitting with yourself, you never really stop long enough to hear the universe tell you, hear God tell you that something is out of balance until all of a sudden something very dramatic happens. And then you're kind of forced to deal with it. But if you can learn to sit with it as it's happening, then maybe there is more of an opportunity to respond instead of react.
Absolutely.
Would you?
I feel like, I mean, that's the maintenance of the human body, the maintenance of the human spirit. You know, like a lot of people can't sit with themselves because when you sit with yourself, you sit with all the versions of you that you've tried to forget. You know, all the versions of you that you tried to get rid of.
True.
And so one thing, you know, about my spiritual journey and just my connection to myself, all the Dreas are in here. 3-year-old Drea, 17-year-old Drea, 50-year-old Drea. Everything that I've been and will be is in this body. And so there are times where I'll ask 50-year-old Drea, show me how you got to where you are. You know, I am in this space, or I can become the higher order of Dreas to heal 17-year-old Drea, 14-year-old Drea that dealt with whatever they were dealing with, you know? But to have that connection to myself, I have to have grace for myself. Because Drea ain't always did what was good for Drea, you know? But that doesn't mean that I'm going to banish you away, you know? But if I try to do that, then I can't sit with you because you're going to stare me in the face every time, you know? And so sitting with yourself is so powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And to have the tool to know not to be afraid of what comes up because it's you, you know? Like I feel like that's a different level of relationship that if a lot of people had those tools, life would be another place.
So let me ask you this. So how long, what's the longest you've sat in meditation?
And so there's not a resistance to that question, but just as I was saying that I don't always intentionally like say I'm going to sit to meditate, but I might sit out on my hammock in silence for 2 hours. And that's just, you know, like just something that I'm doing, you know, because I genuinely enjoy just thinking.
Well, I only asked that question from a standpoint that, so I've been on the longest is about a 10-day retreat of getting up at 4 a.m., meditating, starting meditation by 4:30, but meditating till 10 o'clock at night, going to sleep and doing that again for the entire 10 days.
No talking, right?
And no talking.
I've never done anything like that.
And that's the reason why I asked the question. So for me, in my experience, what I found is that in the first 3 days, everything is very chaotic. You do have this, in a Buddhist setting, they call it monkey mind. Everything is just all over the place. And about that 4th day, it gets quiet. That 4th or 5th day, it gets real quiet. Everything is extremely calm. But what happens next is that you now think of things you hadn't thought about in 25 years. You now think about things that you were as a kid, because all the stuff that's immediate, like with your wife, with your kids, with your work, all that is now burned off. And now this other stuff starts like creeping up and making its way up again. And that lasts for another 10 another 5 days, 3 days, and it gets quiet again.
Yeah.
That is about the time when I've really had my longest retreat. I've not retreated long enough to know what happens after that second calming. And you would find people crying in that 5th or 6th day, because now, to your point, the sitting with yourself has now, I like to say, the kitchen has gotten hot. The kitchen has gotten hot.
Yeah.
But I think it is so inspiring to hear you talk about the power of the ability to sit with oneself, because it is not common.
And not in the beginning, right? And so I feel like, so again, I ain't never meditated for 10 days straight. I feel like that's another, even things that I've experienced in altered states, you know, I feel like can match some of that, but that would be a whole experience for me in itself, you know, but I think the way that I thread it again into my daily life and just the way that I think, and the way that I kind of see things and the way that I try to be present kind of continuously, it's almost like since I am not avoiding it, you know, I'm doing it in bite-sized pieces.
Right.
To where I can actually digest what I'm sitting with.
Right.
Rather than having it all thrown to me, because I don't know how I would deal with it.
Well, I hear, because I'm going to be honest, so our abbot, Galen Godwin, if you think, to your point, if you think you were going to just get up from that seat and walk away, no, Galen, she is a Zen master, and she is going to help you sit with yourself. And I can tell you, you know, you talked about a time in your life. I can remember back, I could say 20 years ago, I was in a tough spot, and Galen, she made me just sit. And I would cry, just crying. But I was sitting in that cushion, and she would say how important, she would whisper, how important it was to learn to just sit with the pain.
Okay, now this, I'm not gonna go on the whole tangent.
Okay.
Because pain, to me, and there's so many different kind of touch points I've had with it, pain is a part of life.
Yes, it is.
Right? We all deal with pain on different levels, but pain is pain. It's not gonna go away. Even if you overcome one pain, there's another pain.
There's another one coming, yeah.
You know, and so I feel like there's always a version of Drea that's always crying. You know,
okay.
That's always in pain.
Okay.
I don't live through her all the time, because then I'd be depressed, you know,
Right.
But that pain, and this might sound weird to say, but it's almost like sometimes I find solace in being in that space, because I think it's because I'm allowing myself to experience the pain.
Is there acceptance?
The acceptance is why I can say that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think when there is acceptance, then there's not avoidance.
I think honestly, and this again, I'm saying it, might disagree with it later.
Okay.
But acceptance to me is one of, if not the biggest kind of way around a lot of pain in life. You know, a lot of the resistance is because we are not willing to accept what is happening. We're not willing to accept what life is delivering.
Okay.
We're not willing to accept that this person is gone, you know, that they don't want us no more.
Right.
But like that acceptance, I feel like, of course, you're still going to feel pain, but it lessens a lot of the blow. Because at that point, you're saying, okay, this is happening. You know, I might be standing here in pain, but I know that I'm not going to be stuck in pain.
Correct.
This is just a part of the process.
Correct.
You know, but acceptance is huge for sure.
Acceptance is huge.
Yeah.
I just want to say this has been a conversation that I think I personally have been looking for. Did not realize with you that it was going to be such a deep, rich conversation around this. I feel like I really needed to talk about the art more, but I got to be honest with you, this meditation side of it, it is really grabbing me.
Yeah.
Because I do think it is, for me, it's been a lifesaver. For me, I have the most wonderful mother in the whole wide world. I do. My mother, she puts on a Superman cape, and she has swooped in and saved me so many times. But for the days when she couldn't, I had to become my own psychologist. I had to become my own therapist. And the meditation has given me a vehicle for being that.
Yeah, yeah.
Where then you could kind of say, I was able to start growing up without having to lean on mom so much. So no, this has been a really good conversation. So tell me again tell us again your social handles.
So I'm Drea the Artist on everything. So on Instagram, that is DREA_the artist. My website, DreaTheArtist.com. If you type in Drea the Artist on Facebook, I have a Facebook page that doesn't get used that often, you know.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
If you look on all of the music platforms, Drea the Artist, I have a meditation mixtape, you know, where I made the music, I sang and edited and did everything. But that's me. Do we have time to talk about you though? Because I feel like that was something we was gonna do.
Yeah, okay.
Or are you gonna escape?
We
and
got
we're gonna
time.
stop here.
No, we got time.
So I want to preface this by saying I didn't know until we sat here and I looked at your hand that we both went to Texas A&M.
Yes.
And I know you said you went there years later for your MBA, but how does your balance, you know, of going in an environment like that, you know, or I know UT ain't the same as Texas A&M.
Correct. Two different things.
Yeah, and so how does your identity, you know, your spirit, how does that balance work out with going to a place like that?
Well, okay. Well, first thing, you know, going to UT back in the 80s is much different than being at UT
now
today. I know you're from Austin, but I'm not from Austin. So when I showed up in Austin, what I remember about Austin was that back in the 80s, there were no black radio stations. I remember that. And because I was not from Austin, I didn't have anywhere to get a haircut. So I had to learn how to cut my own hair. Yes,
Wow.
yes, and cutting your hair half drunk is another thing in itself too. But anyway, also too, at UT, what I remember, there was a hesitation to let a lot of the black kids just kind of be, meaning campus police and other things, but here's where I'm going with it. At some point around 86, and for any UT people may be watching this, I hope I got this right, but we end up eventually getting Soul Night. Soul Night was at the Union, and that was the one night. I remember being Thursday night, so everybody would try to get their homework done because it was Soul Night, and it wasn't every Thursday. It was like one Thursday of the month. But Paul Quinn, you know, University Paul Quinn. Okay, so all the universities, all the black kids were coming to Soul Night.
Wow. Okay.
But it was our chance to be together and seeing when you think about it, people who were from Houston and from Dallas would have to bring music to Austin. And that DJ, when he came, that was the only access that, in a lot of ways, aside from someone making a copy of a tape from Houston or Dallas, you got no music. At least for the college. Now, for the people who lived in Austin, black folks who lived in Austin, that's a different story. But for the college kids who lived in Austin, because if we really didn't leave the campus, then I never really would have met a Austinite black person.
Yeah.
I was only meeting the other black kids, and back then, you barely had 1,000, and most of the black kids were all athletes. So if you had just kind of a regular student like me, okay, this was a struggle.
Yeah.
So with all of that being said, you got to realize I didn't go to A&M until nearly 23, 24 years later. So I went to A&M as a fully grown, fully adult.
Experience.
So that was a totally different experience.
And it's crazy though, because I feel like my experience at A&M, I know it wasn't the 80s, you know, so there's a lot of different elements, but I always said A&M, and hey, if you're an Aggie watching this, but this is from my view, I feel like it's only enjoyable if you are, I ain't gonna say it just out of respect, or if you're an athlete, you know, or you're in a sorority.
And that's how UT was.
I wasn't in either. I lived off campus. Didn't. And so there's actually the black community at A&M is so small that, you know, if you saw somebody new, you'd be like, oh, you new here because I'd never seen you before.
Right.
You know, and I feel like if you live on campus and you can kind of meet up, like there's definitely that group.
Yeah.
But for somebody like me that lived off campus, like, yeah, I had friends, but is not the same, you know? And so being in that environment for me was a catalyst to the spiritual journey because ain't no other.
Yeah.
And so did your spiritual journey like start before UT or did that come years later?
Oh, that came after UT.
Okay.
That really, my spiritual journey really came as a result of the things I was going through in my own personal life. I got married pretty early after I got out of UT. And everything that kind of came with the breakup of that really in a lot of ways had me on my journey, spiritual journey. I was, at that point, I was broke financially, broke mentally, broke emotionally. I was broken. And I ended up at a Barnes & Noble's over on Bel Air. It's not there anymore. And I found a book by the Dalai Lama about happiness. And I was saying to myself, well, what is happiness? Because I hadn't seen happiness. I hadn't forgotten what happiness. If happiness came and sat down next to me right now, I wouldn't know what to say to her. Yeah, exactly. Because it was just so foreign to me.
Yeah.
And that really got me going, which then took me into yoga, and then eventually I ended up at the Houston Zen. Well, at the time, if you go back to 99, 2000, the Houston Zen Center didn't exist. We were just a loose group of people meditating at the Unitarian Church on Main Street. They were allowing us to use the space. Then from there, as you get into the early 2000s, we then formed the Houston Zen Center that's now there on High Boulevard and 17th Street.
Okay.
So that was my access. And then I took Buddhist vows in 2004. And anybody who knows anything about Buddhism, much like in a Christian text, you don't necessarily have a baptism, but you have a ceremony where you are given a new name. So for what it's worth, my Buddhist name is elegant vessel, accomplished the way. Elegant vessel, accomplished the way. So I feel like my meditation teacher, Galen, I think she noticed so that but yes, that's my journey.
I feel like, because of course we're switching the roles now, so I feel like I could dive a lot deeper into, because I mean you have my lifetime basically of meditation experience, of being in a world where I'm sure at that time, I mean it's more of a trend now, you know, spirituality and things like that. But back then, I feel like you had to definitely be a lot more intentional in, you know, being willing to step away from the norms, you know, especially of the Black community. But speaking of stepping away from norms, love cake and cakewalk.
Okay.
When did you actually start writing?
I started writing Cakewalk in 2018.
Was that your first time writing?
That was, so now I am a writer, so I serve on several boards. That gives me the opportunity to write letters. I daily write in a journal daily. I've been writing in a journal daily since 1990. So I have so many journals now, and the majority of them are at my mom's house. So that is there too. But then also too, in this second marriage that I am in, I've been in it for nearly 18 years. Yes.
Congrats.
I have written my wife nearly 900 and some odd letters.
Aww.
So I am a writer in that sense, but I really see myself as more of a storyteller.
Okay.
Because as a lot of people know, I used to make my living as a magician at one time. So I really see this as just another way to tell a story. So I see myself more as a storyteller who is learning the craft of writing.
I like that specificity there. So then what inspired or influenced your storylines that you're telling in your books? Well,
so as you know, Cakewalk and Love Cake are really about a man who has fallen in love with a trans woman. And I think what was important to me is that you find communities such as the trans community being dehumanized at every turn. And this was a way, hopefully through his eyes, to humanize her. Through his journey of self-acceptance of himself, I was then hoping to humanize her.
Okay. Okay.
That is the intention.
What was like the initial, I guess, response of the people around you who read this or knew what it was about?
Well, you know, a, a lot of questions around this subject, and it's not like you walk around talking about LGBTQ plus issues, and considering the fact I don't identify as LGBTQ plus, then it is a matter then of talking about your allyship. So this really forced you to talk about why allyship is important. And up to that point, yeah, I was an ally, but I wasn't like, you know, hitting a bell from ringing from the, you know, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what this has done is that it has really helped me understand how to be an ally. I don't necessarily see myself as I don't know, this word ally and advocate, to me, there's just two different things. So I feel like an advocate, and maybe someone did tell me I was becoming more of an advocate, and you know, because I guess there seems to be more action oriented.
Yeah.
But I think it's really more about trying to find ways to promote my allyship for the trans community specifically, but also for the LGBTQ plus community more broadly.
Yeah.
I have so many people in my immediate orbit who are both trans, who are gay, lesbian, who are part of the LGBTQ plus community. So I have a sense of the pain that can be there. And I think we sometimes only listen to, I'm trying to say it this way. So, I mean, sometimes you can tell someone how you feel, but if someone else says it, oh, all of a sudden they heard it. It's kind of like, well, I just said that. So to me, I feel like the LGBTQ plus community, just like women, just like black folks, are all telling how they feel. But when it comes from someone else, all of a sudden someone says, oh, and it generally is coming from a place.
And I've been saying this the whole time.
Right, and it's generally coming from a place of privilege. The privileged person now is saying, oh, you need to pay attention to that. That's why it's so important that men show their allyship to women and women's equality and women's rights, because the privilege needs to get in this conversation. So for me, the privileged person willing to be seen as an ally for the LGBT clubs is important. So that's why how this, for me, all really comes together in telling this story.
Yeah, I think that's definitely very beautiful, because for you to say that you don't identify, you know, as the community.
I do not live as, right.
Yeah, but being able to have a voice that still advocates, that still promotes, that still supports, you know, again, and this is from my vantage point, you know, just seeing the world that I live in, like, that's not normal, you know, and not normal in something wrong, but like you don't see that every day because a lot of people are worried about how people are going to see them and things like that.
Right.
And so like not only in your authorship, but like in your spiritual journey, I feel like you have been a person that doesn't mind stepping away from the norm to advocate for what you believe in. And that's beautiful.
But see, I also think too, I think the meditation has also given me the courage to be vulnerable. I think if I never heard the voices in meditation, never heard the universe, never heard God tell me that I had the ability to handle what would be thrown at me, I don't think I could do it. But I think it is the meditation that has strengthened me to say I can handle it.
And I think, and I'm glad you brought that back, because I wanted to say something about meditation in the midst of that, but I went another direction, just because I think the reason that I, you know, try to spread meditation and spirituality and connecting with yourself is because at the end of the day, and even how you were saying, you know, you wanted to become your own psychologist in the days where you couldn't lean on your mom. At the end of the day, yes, you have people to support you, be around you, but you're the only person.
You're the only person
that can go in that deep place, in that inner room. Like nobody can see that.
Correct.
Even while we're sitting here, yes, I might feel your energy and we might be relating, but I don't see your thoughts.
Correct.
You know, I don't feel what you're feeling, you know?
Correct.
And I feel like that is the greatest tool that I can give somebody else, is
Correct.
the ability to heal themselves.
So with that being said, that is part of the protagonist, Brian, in the story. That is how he finds the courage to realize how much he loves her. It's through meditation. that is where the transition happens.
Yeah.
So for me, I would like to see in all of my novels, the upcoming novels, the transition of the individual happens through meditation. And meditation doesn't have to be religious. It doesn't have to be Buddhism. It doesn't. Meditation can simply just be this action, this doing of just sitting. So I'm not necessarily trying to put a religious spin on it through Buddhism or not Christianity. That's not. But it is a matter of saying that we have that as a tool for transition. We have it as a tool for courage and strength. We have it as a tool for seeing the truth. We have it as a tool for being who we really are meant to be. It really allows who you are to really just kind of just be seen.
And I love that because for me, God or the light is accessible to all of us.
Correct.
And I don't want to say it's a tool, but it is a tool. Like when you connect with that light through meditation or through yoga or through service or whatever that thing is for you, it enlightens you in such a way that, you can't cut the light off. So even with my art, I use bold colors and everything. The colors never die.
Correct.
The vibrance, the purity of color, it doesn't go away. Every time I look at my paintings, it still charges me up, And so again, I feel like my purpose in life is using all of my talents, using my writing, my music, my art, jewelry that I'm making now, like anything to help to trigger that light, trigger that curiosity in somebody to say, hey, let me see. And it's not going to be me telling you, hey, do this, and you're going to find this. But I even had one of the young ladies that I'm mentoring the other day ask me just about basically putting more meaning into our art, And I told her about my journey with that. But ultimately, I told her the only tangible advice I could give to you is to ask your spirit what that next step looks like for you and receive it. Because, I don't have the answer for you.
Okay.
And so I think, meditation is, and we keep talking about meditation, and I'm glad even, and I know I'm jumping just because art is on the surface for me. Art is what attracts people. Art is what, might blow your mind and you try to figure out what's happening. But everything that I am is way, the art is the expression of what's underneath that.
Yes.
And so, again, talking about meditation, talking about connecting with yourself, that's where my passion is because that's where the power is. That's where the actual power is.
And that's where me and you have found connection. And I want to tell you thank you for being here. Yes, I want to tell you thank you for being here today. This has been more than I could ask for. It really has been. I am so impressed that such a young person that you have. I'm almost 60.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's taken me a while.
Yeah.
To live this, see it. I'm so glad that you as a young person are seeing this because, one, you can hopefully cut down on how, we have such short time here is my point I'm trying to make here. But yes, thank you for being here today.
Yes.
Once again, I want you to say one more time your social handles again before we go.
Yes, thank you for having me. But Drea the Artist on everything. DREA_the Artist. Instagram is where I am the most. You'll find nature trips, some of my art, my shows, different things that I do because I do a lot, lots of ways to get connected. But I appreciate you for having me. This was a great conversation. I hope to continue the conversation off the camera.
Yeah, we definitely are.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you all, thank you for being here again. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with me and Drea the Artist. This has been exactly what I wanted to be, a deep and rich conversation about art, but I think also about who we are as humans and how we are using the things available to us in order to find the true expression of who we really are. So thank you for being here. If you like what you saw today, hit the subscribe button. Please share this with your friends, family, other people you think who could benefit from this. But I am Douglas Bell. I can be reached at my website, douglasbellbooks.com, as well as my social handles, Instagram, Facebook, at Douglas Bell Author. And I want to tell you all, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a part of this.
It's good, right?
You all right, my book.
So I told you, we'll just talk.
You all right, my book.
Let it flow. How long was that?
I would have to go back and check.
That was, yeah, we usually don't go this long, but I have to be on, you're on another level, girlfriend. You're on another level. No, you're on another level. No, I'm sorry. You're on